views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to journalists and we talk to photographers, we talk to editors and writers and filmmakers and videographers, anybody putting stuff out in the Bronx, try and give you some insight as to what's like in their head while they're doing their stuff and putting it out, so you can get some real inside information about what's going on. This evening, we're going to one of the most important editors of a newspaper in the Bronx, and also some photographs that you are not going to believe. But you will believe our first guest. I hope you will anyway. It is Michael Hinman, the editor of the Riverdale Press, and nice to have you all the way across town in Riverdale. Nice to see you, Michael.
Hey, nice to see you as well. I think you're kind of overstating me a little bit there, Gary. So.
Well, I guess we'll hang out here and find out, won't we? Anyway, let's get right to it. It's almost like, ground zero. SAR closed their school over the Carona Virus fears, and of course you guys were right on it and right in it. What happened? What did you find out? And what are the prospects for the people in that school?
Well, I mean, from what we understand, as of right now, that the school is going to be closed for at least a week. Both schools. We have SAR High School, which is actually right across the street from our newspaper offices here in North Riverdale, and then there's SAR Academy, which is a lot of the lower school students. Both campuses have been closed down, and from what we understand, it's voluntary. Nobody's ordered them to do that, but it all resulted after a parent of one of the students there was the second person to have been confirmed as diagnosed for COVID-19 or coronavirus that's been going out there. We've since learned that I believe that the entire family and the neighbor now, so it's including the daughter and her brother, and then a neighbor who had driven their father to the airport, have now all tested positive, from what we understand. Wow. At least. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed yet or not, but this is at least information that's been coming out, as of right now.
And so then what happens? I mean, this is a kind of instructional for people to understand what the possibilities are. So then they go in and they clean the school and then everybody can come back in? Or are we now like really kids are out of school, business is closed for the foreseeable future? Like what happens now?
Well, I mean, I think right now the school's going to be closed for at least a week. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's going to be cleaning going on. I'm sure that there's going to be crews that are doing that. I mean, at the same time, I'm not a pathologist or a doctor, whoever deals with these kind of things. So, but from what I understand, I'm assuming that there's no real human contact with this virus. That that if it stays on the surface, it's not going to be there. It can't be there more than a few days, without it, finally dying off. So I think that's probably what they're waiting out for sure, and just make sure that nobody else is symptomatic, that they're not showing anybody else who is symptomatic. As far as we know, nobody else has been so far. But I mean, once again, we're talking about a virus that has a 2-week incubation period, so it's really kind of hard to tell, who might show up being symptomatic, who might not be. I mean, and of course, that raises concerns. I mean, there's people who interact with a lot of the students here, especially up in this part of Riverdale, and I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking about, like we rode the same buses, we've been to the same stores, and those kind of things are those, issues that we have to worry about.
Yeah, I think it's of concern. Now, you and I know each other pretty well, and because we're both journalists, we don't mess around, and I'm going to tell you the truth right now. We have been working at setting up a coronavirus show on Bronx Talk for this coming week. And it has been, frankly, upsetting to me that I've interacted with people I know directly in the Department of Health, the city's Department of Health. And number one, the press office has not called me back, despite numerous calls and emails. And they apparently are unwilling to put up a guest to be on the show. To me, I understand they're busy and they're scrambling and there's a lot to do, but I would think one of the things that would be the clear responsibility of the Department of Health is to go on TV an active show like Bronx Talk that people watch, and we circulate it in social media and all that, that they would want to give instructions so it's not just you and me speculating on what might happen. I've just found it disappointing, so that's my editorial comment, letting you know on the inside that's what's going on. Frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating in a way. I mean, it's really, I mean, I don't know what else, there's not a lot that can be said about that. I mean, I think primarily, the biggest thing is that you want to keep washing your hands. You don't want to put your hands towards your mouth and your eyes, which I've probably done like 4 times on camera already, because I have a bad
Well,
habit
you're
of
alone
doing
in
it.
the room. There's nobody else, so if you're all right, I think you're all right.
Yeah, hopefully. And then the big thing is if you show symptoms, to see a doctor, and
Immediately.
and to see a doctor immediately, and to limit your contact with other people. But I mean, in terms of, I also don't want us to be victims of of overblowing this either.
Fear,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying that this isn't a serious thing, but I mean, we've had about 10 deaths or a dozen deaths, which is, by the way, anybody dying from this is terrible. But the regular flu that's been going on has already claimed 19,000 people.
Right.
So when you kind of compare those things, like, I think I'm a little more afraid of the real, the regular flu than I am of coronavirus.
Interesting, although apparently the contagion of this is pretty significant, that you could be anywhere, and so
course.
just for what we know and from what I've read, if you ride the subway and you hold the rail or you hold the pole, make sure you wash your hands before you touch your face. No, I'm very serious about
Or just
that.
don't hold it. Just don't hold the pole. I mean, I'm probably gonna wear gloves if I'm on the subway. So.
All right. Well, speaking of the subway, the number one train has vacillated, as far as I can recall, at being the most efficient and least efficient in the city. And of course, it's a lifeline for many of the people in the North Bronx, specifically the West Bronx. And you had a story in your paper written by Kristen Brenlin that said, "No light at the end of the number one line tunnel." And I know a number of people who have said, "Wait a minute, I got to get on the train and come uptown." But there's whole sections of it that you got to take a bus or who knows what. What do you got? What's going on?
I mean, we don't have much of anything, which is like really difficult to really do that. It was tough to write the story, but because MTA is not even really talking about it. I mean, the fact is that, I mean, for at least the last year and a half, that they've been doing track replacements, switch replacements, all kinds of things that have limited the train over weekends, middays, and everything else. So we thought last year, I think about last fall, that this was finally all finished, and we went through kind of a quiet winter. But now all of a sudden, it seems like they didn't do any of that work. It's almost like they're repeating all of it because we're getting all of these shutdowns. So I mean, a lot of times at midday, a lot of times, on the weekends, overnights, taking a train out of the Bronx is almost impossible. At least the one train. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like you and me, where we kind of also have close proximity to the 4 train, it's not too bad. But for anybody who's living on the other side and they depend on that one train, I mean, you're stuck.
Well, think about this: that you're in the middle of the day. You figure the trains are just running; they may not even be as crowded as at rush hour and whatever else. And you get on the train, and all of a sudden there's an announcement that everybody has to get off at 137th Street and get on the bus. You've just now just added 45 minutes to your commute, and for working people and busy people, it's kind of difficult. So in a way, if I'm judging what your conclusion is, it's much like the Department of Health. We don't know.
Yeah, nobody's talking, and it's tough. And we don't even know when it's going to end. We don't know how much longer this is going on for. And right now, if you're planning on taking the one train, you got to make sure. I would check everything to make sure. Check the website. Check everything.
The last thing I want to talk about, it's probably the last thing I want to talk about. I really thought that Kristen's work on the speed camera story was outstanding. I mean, she really explained it. I'm going to very quickly give you the anecdote for me. Driving down East 233rd Street next to the Woodlawn Cemetery. It was the middle of the day. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's on the road. I was going 35 miles per hour and got a speeding ticket because the limit is 25. I personally don't think 35 is really like I was speeding, and I know I normally drive very carefully. And I got a ticket, $50 ticket, said I was in the school zone. I'm not sure where the local school would be. There's a lot of dead people to my right, but that's another story. Then I'm on another time, I don't know, a month or two later, I'm on Williamsbridge Road, 8:30 at night. There's no traffic. Same thing, 35 miles an hour, and I got another speeding ticket from a speed camera. To me, that's excessive, but here's the punch.
You're a serial offender.
I know, but here's the punchline. Now, I go a lot slower because I absolutely will not take a chance. So even though I'm, generally law-abiding and not complaining, maybe they're doing the right thing because they've actually slowed me down. Although I don't think in those circumstances I was actually being dangerous, but
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I have mixed feelings about cameras enforcing laws overall. Like I'm actually pretty for speed cameras for exactly what you're describing. Not that it raises money, but I think that it does force people to slow down, and even if you're not thinking about it, it really makes you think about it. But then I have issues with things like red light cameras, which I don't think actually enforce anything. I think that what it does enforce is nothing, because red light running isn't somebody who made the light, who just missed the light and they hit somebody else. I mean, red light running somebody who's done it like, 20 seconds after the lights changed, not half a second.
right.
So I kind of have issues with that. I kind of see those as money grabs. But for the speed cameras, I think they're really important, especially, anywhere you can get them in terms of slowing people down. I see people racing through neighborhoods and communities and everything else. And I'm a serial jaywalker. And so, I need to make sure that nobody's going to hit me speeding down the street while I'm breaking the law by crossing, outside of a crosswalk.
Well, we are less, frankly, concerned about you than we are the kids after school.
Yeah,
Listen,
probably.
I told you that. I told you that anecdote, and so yeah, maybe it is earning the city some money, but maybe also it is making people slow down. And anytime, because they will post the thing that says, speed radar detected and all that, and so I
Yeah.
drive slow. Listen, I really appreciate you coming on, Michael. The Riverdale Press is very, very important. As you know, our good friend David Cruz is leaving or has left or about to leave
Yeah,
the
very
Norwood
sad.
News.
Yeah.
And so I guess it increases the importance of, really one of the great papers of our borough. And you do a great job over there. So thanks a lot. Say hello to all my buddies, and we'll
Will
bring
do.
you back for more.
Sounds great. Thanks, Gary.
All the best. There he is, Michael Hinman from the Riverdale Press. What we're going to do, we're going to take a break. Wait till you see the pictures we're about to show you. I don't even know what to say. And if I don't know what to say, we have a problem. Anyway, don't go away. Be back to the Bronx Buzz.
Did you know that brain and spinal cord tumors are the deadliest form of pediatric cancer? It can happen to anyone.
I'm not hungry. My tummy hurts.
You can help us be part of the solution.
Get in here. Hurry.
You can be part of our family.
It's okay.
Please support our mission today. Making Headway Foundation, dedicated to the care, comfort, and cure of children with brain and spinal cord tumors.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz, and I was just saying how unbelievable our next guest is, as well as his photographs. So I'm going to let him describe it to you on the telephone from close to New Jersey. It's Dave Frieder. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Very good.
Great. Dave, I didn't say what you do, but you have an incredible portfolio of photographs from the top of bridges. I want just a little background. We're going to roll these photos in while you're talking. Explain to me what you do. There's a photo of you on top of something overlooking Manhattan. You're out of your mind. How did you get involved in being at the top of bridges?
Okay. Well, actually, I'm from Queens. I grew up in Queens till I was 6 years old. Then we moved to New Jersey with my folks. And what fascinated me, though, when I lived in Queens is that back many years ago, there was what's called the Flushing Bascule Bridge. A bascule bridge is where it has the leaves that open up. This had, I think, a double bascule,
Wow.
2 leaves that opened. So for me, 3 years old, seeing this bridge open up in front of you, blocking the roadway, and then it comes down, and then you drive over it, I thought that was fascinating.
I know
said, wow,
exactly
this
what
is...
you're saying. The 207th Street Bridge and also the City Island Bridge, which, turns. And I remember
That's
my
a swing
own
bridge.
kids. Say it again?
That was a swing bridge.
A swing bridge, there you go. But
Yes.
I remember as a kid thinking the same fascination, and my kids also, the same fascination you had. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So that inspired you.
Yes, pretty much. So then when we moved to Jersey, taking the George Washington Bridge, and then they started building the lower roadway in 1959. I said, wow, the engineer had enough insight to design the bridge for a lower deck.
Wow.
But then I realized after doing some studying that it was designed for full lanes of light rail. But then because the automobile was the most prominent means of transportation, it was converted to 3 lanes on both north and south side for vehicular traffic. So that was really amazing for me. Mm-hmm. And then visiting my grandparents, my father's parents lived in Manhattan, my mom's mom lived in Brooklyn, taking the West Side Highway, or then better yet, taking the FDR Drive and seeing all these bridges across the East River. And I'm looking at them all, and I was like so fascinated seeing, wow, these bridges all do the same function, but they all look so different. Why is that?
But you ended up saying not only do they look different, I want to be the guy on top of them?
Well, not really. I never had a fear of heights, but I was always fascinated by the crowns, actually finials, on top of the Queensboro Bridge. And I always said to myself, I wonder what it would be like to be at the top of the tower with those crowns of finials 10 feet away from me. I didn't realize years later I'd be climbing them. But,
now why did
really
you climb? Did you climb them because you were a photographer, or you climbed them because you were a construction engineer or something like that?
No, I'm very familiar with civil and structural engineering, but I actually started off as an auto mechanic. So I worked on cars for 5-6 years, and my best bet from there was electronics. Eventually, I became a technician servicing and installing X-ray equipment in the tri-state area. And then after that, I decided I don't want to work for someone anymore. I want to work for myself. So I did all types of home repairs. Now I'm retired, so now I can pursue my photography full time.
But how do you get up to the top of the bridges? I mean, we've been showing some of these photos. How do you get up to the top of the bridges to to take the pictures? You get a pass. You say, "Hey, folks, I'm going to be climbing up." I mean, how does that work?
Well, before 9/11, I had almost unprecedented access to climb and photograph all of the bridges. I would contact, let's say, New York City DOT to get up on Brooklyn Bridge. As long as I had my insurance intact, you have to have a high liability insurance. This gets the bridge authority and everyone else off the hook in case you fall, you drop something, and then 2 iron workers from DOT would escort me, and that cost me X amount of dollars. But with the other bridges, if I worked with the contractor that was repairing the bridges, then DOT said, fine, as long as they take you under their wing, and you have your insurance, then you can go up with the contractor, which I did.
Wow.
I never had a problem with really any of them. Many times, I have to admit, I'm not going to say which bridge authority, but a lot of them would just drop me off and say, have a good time, call us when you're done.
Wow.
And I never ever had a problem, never had an incident, I never dropped anything, and they know that.
Wow. Dave, any anecdotes from your perspective about what you did, what you see, any surprises? I'm happy to hear that you never dropped anything. I got to tell you, it's almost hard for me to even watch you up there, let alone the thought that you'd be up there. You must have seen, so just give me something about what it was like to be up there and doing that. It seems unimaginable to me.
Well, it was actually thrilling. I was, no mugger would follow me up there. So,
That's true. You were safe in a way.
Yeah. Well, several things. First, one time when I was standing on top of the sphere of Manhattan Bridge, and I had that in a postcard, way in the distance I could see the Circle Line boat going around the tip of Manhattan. So I'm there appropriately dressed. I have my hard hat, my safety vest. So I'm waving at the boat. All of a sudden, I saw from the distance the whole boat is waving back at me. I thought that was so cool. I mean, the whole boat sees me waving up there, and I was legally allowed to be up there.
Wow.
And quite a few other times on Throgs Neck, and especially on Verrazano, I've been attacked quite a bit by peregrine falcons. I mean, this is their territory.
Like actually attacked?
Yeah, they would come down and dive bomb me and try to attack me. And their claws are like razors. But it never intimidated me. I would just wave my hands in the air. I would growl loudly at them, and they would back off. And when they saw me coming, now they have incredible eyesight, they would see me coming, and they'd then take off because they knew I was not going to be intimidated by them.
Well, that is unbelievable. I'll tell you, scary enough to be up there, let alone being attacked by birds. Now, I realize you're harnessed in, but still,
Yes.
That to me would be frightening. You have seen first of all, how many years did you do that? And are you done, or are you going to go up to other bridges at some point?
Well, pretty much everything is brought to a grinding halt because of 9/11. I did get some access after 9/11. The whole scope of this was to create a fine art coffee table book on New York's bridges. Now, I started this project in 1993, and last September, I finally self-published this book after 26 years of hard work.
Wow.
It was not easy. It took a lot of years after 9/11 to realize I can't get back up on some of the bridges, so I had to start taking a lot of the photos showing the full bridge from shore to shore.
Mm-hmm.
I like to joke about myself. For instance, to get the full view of the George Washington Bridge, I was able to get on the roof of the New York State Psychiatric Institute. So some people said, well, since you're crazy, you might as well stay there for a week or two, which that's fine by me. I mean, I can laugh at myself. I don't care. But I got some great views from their roof. I got a lot of access from the New York City Housing Authority roofs, like to get the full view of the Queensboro Bridge. Some of them were from ground level. That's when I used my large format cameras. Mind you, I do not use digital. I prefer film only. And I have no problem getting film or paper to produce these photographs.
Well, that's fascinating. And of course, these were done, I guess, prior to the institution of film cameras. I mean, I get that. In terms of taking the photographs and turning them around and making a book. From what you're saying, it sounds like unless there's a construction engineer willing to take the photos, what you have done is done. Nobody else is going to be able to do it in this way.
Yeah, like I said, after 9/11, it's severely restricted. I used to have great access with the TBTA, that's the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority.
Right.
They made a 180-degree change. They have given me quite a hard time after 9/11 when I'm even photographing on park property.
Right.
They would give me a hard time.
Well,
So this has changed a lot. I mean, the Port Authority, though, they were great. They've helped me so much, even with the production of my book. Some of their engineers actually helped me with some technical information with their bridges. The DOT, some of the fellows were okay. Amtrak, of course, would not allow me back up on the Hellgate Bridge. But this was a lot of heartache and aggravation. People have no idea what I had to go through to create this. It's just, the thoughts I had from the very beginning to finally create this book was mind-boggling.
Well, you say what you had to go through, and I guess I am sympathetic to, the issues of creating the book and putting it together and, selecting the photos and ultimately publishing it. But when you talk about what you had to go through, I just can't believe, I mean, just the thought of you climbing up. Now, I've walked across the George Washington Bridge several times, number of times. And even looking down at the water, from the pathway, I get scared. I cannot imagine alone, and they would let you alone going all the way up there. It's unimaginable. Do you have a favorite bridge or a favorite view? I mean, they're all spectacular to me, but tell me a little bit about your own preferences after actually seeing all this stuff close firsthand.
Well, my favorite bridge, no contest, GWB. I mean, just it's a masterpiece of engineering. It is so massive. I mean, I like the Brooklyn Bridge. It's really cool. It is a New York icon. That's why I had to put it on the front of the dust jacket on my book. I wanted the GWB, but no bridge says New York more than the Brooklyn Bridge. So that had to go on the front. Then my favorite bridge, of course, went on the back of the dust jacket. And actually, I was outvoted by a lot of friends which photo that would be. So I had to go with the majority. But I just find the GWB just so massive. When you're up there, when you're climbing the steelwork, it is so huge. And something that most people don't realize, because of New York's bridges, that's why California has its Golden Gate Bridge, the Bay Bridge, and that's why the longest suspension bridge in the world is in Japan, again, because of New York's bridges. And mind you, there are 2,077 bridges in the city of New York.
Wow. Who knew? The last thing I just want to say, and you brought it up earlier in the program, and that was the idea that they added a lower deck, and that would underscore your point about it engineering feat. I mean, But listen, we're almost out of time. Name of the book, and of course, I guess you can get it on Amazon and B&N and all those places.
Yes, I really prefer people if they could purchase it through my website, but buy it through PayPal. Amazon charges quite a bit. And if they buy it through PayPal, I will sign the book for them.
Oh, and the name of the book is?
The Magnificent Bridges of New York City. By
Dave Frieder. Dave, you are just wonderful. This is unique. Nobody's ever going to be able to do what you've done, and you have documented it, and we thank you for coming on the Bronx Buzz this evening, and
Great, thank you.
Wish you good luck. Stay in touch. If you ever get up there again, let us know.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much.
All right, there you go. Wow, there it is. The great Dave Frieder, one of a kind. You saw the pictures on top of the Throg's Neck, on top of the Whitestone, on top of all our Bronx bridges. Unbelievable. And that'll do the Bronx Buzz for us for this evening. Thank you to Michael Hinman and to Dave Frieder. On Bronx Talk this week, we're going to do coronavirus. We'll see you next week.